Money drives the world. The infrastructure of that money matters more now than ever. If you think AI is about a chat prompt that gets you something scheduled for vacation, maybe. The bigger impact, though, is going to be in the world of financial services, in the world of insurance, in the world of this and that. The world is changing, and it's going to change before we know it. It's changing in front of our eyes. If you're curious, if you're scared of AI, if you're scared of any of these things, if you're excited about these things, jump in, give it a listen.
Before we dive back into today's conversation, I want to share something important. This episode includes a paid partnership with BetterHelp, a platform designed to make starting therapy easier. I know from my own journey as a leader and entrepreneur that life can sometimes feel overwhelming. There are seasons where stress, uncertainty, and pressure build up, and you need a safe space to process it all. That's where therapy comes in. Therapy isn't only for people facing clinical challenges. It's a space to reflect, grow, and find better ways to manage stress, relationships, and personal goals. It takes courage to seek help, but it's also one of the smartest investments you can make in your mental and emotional well-being. That's why I'm proud to highlight BetterHelp. With BetterHelp, you simply fill out a short questionnaire and get matched to a credentialed therapist in just a couple of days. If the first match doesn't feel like the right fit, you can easily switch therapists at no extra cost until you find someone who truly connects with you. Inside the platform, you'll also find tools like journaling and group sessions on different topics that can support your growth. And with over 7,000 reviews and a 4.5 Trustpilot rating, BetterHelp is a platform you can rely on. So if you feel like you'd benefit from talking to a therapist, visit betterhelp.com/KingDames. That's betterhelp.com/KingDames to get 10% off your first month of therapy. Once again, this is a paid partnership with BetterHelp, and I encourage you to take that first step if you've been thinking about it. Sometimes the best investment you can make is in yourself.
Welcome to the King Dems podcast, where we share the stories of extraordinary people and dissect hot, relevant topics that shape our world. From visionary leaders to trailblazing creatives, we uncover the mindset, strategy, and grit behind greatness. Whether it's business, culture, or personal growth, we ask the real questions. This isn't just conversation, it's transformation. The King Dems podcast. Your next breakthrough starts here.
Music licensing reimagined.
We're live, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, welcome to the King Dems podcast and Diary of the CFO. And today I've got with me fighting out of the United States of America. Make welcome Zachary, the Morning 2020 hero, Pettet.
I'm in the ring. I'm ready for it. Let's do this. I'm in the Fintech arena, baby. Let's go. For those just catching up, we've been talking for half an hour and had to force ourselves to start recording finally.
Telling you, we've been having too much fun.
Exactly.
The audience missed out on part one of the podcast.
And that means we have to do a part two, but it's going to be really confusing when we go from part one about fintech to part two about MMA, UFC, and the rest of the world.
Whoa. Okay. So I did do my homework. I prepared a nice little introduction for you. So sit back and first let me give you flowers.
Okay. Let me get comfortable and prepare to accept some flowers. I like this.
Okay, let's go. So today on the King Dems podcast and Diary of a CFO, I'm thrilled to welcome a true fintech visionary, Zach Pettet, VP of Global Fintech Strategy at Money 2020 and host of the Fintech Family Hour. Zach has been instrumental in shaping the conversations that define the future of financial innovation. From embedded banking and digital inclusion to the evolving relationship between technology, money, and trust. He's worked with some of the most influential fintech brands and continues to build bridges between founders, investors, and regulators in the global fintech ecosystem. Zach, we once again welcome to the show. It's a privilege to have you on here today.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. I don't know if I deserve all that. I mean, I'm trying to connect the dots, trying to make the world a better place, but I will take it. And it's good to be here with you, man. Good to be here with you.
It's actually not good to be here with you on my side. It's actually great to be here with you.
You're a one-upper. Okay, this is gonna get competitive. I can already tell. All right.
Whoa, you actually wear so many hearts, right? We were talking about anything and everything just before we hit the record button. But let's talk about fintech, right?
Take it whatever direction you want, man. Like, I think, fintech is probably fintech, financial services, AI, blockchain, all that's probably where I know the most, but we can explore.
It is just a subsect of the man, the myth, and the legend. But it is just a subsect at first. You're passionate about something. I'm passionate about AI. I am AI. My parents knew something everybody did not know. Like, they just had to code it. they knew that I'm actually an endangered species, so they said, okay, let's protect this one. Let's not call him artificial intelligence. Let's call him Ademola Isimeme. Of course, it's
Yeah.
still AI.
Ademola is a little more approachable than artificial. If I had to like jump on and be like, "Hello, artificial," it's a little different than "Hello, Ademola." You know, it's like
You see, they will know there's trouble somewhere.
un peu différent. Là. It's a little different. Well different. I guess I see a real human on the other side of the screen here.
Absolutely, absolutely. You said something about me earlier. You said you notice, the real recognize the real. Notice that I have a knack for growth hacking.
Yeah.
What is growth hacking without AI?
Boring. That's my best answer. I mean, I think growth hacking has taken on so many different, like, I think there was a time in Silicon Valley, like Paul Graham, kind of writing the thesis on the idea, and especially in like the earlier days of it, that really was very hacky. And not hacky in terms of like bad comedy or something like that, right? But in terms of like, how can I how can I write a blog post that has 5,000 words and 999 of them are the word fintech or whatever it might be. And I think the exciting part about AI is the ability to game that algorithm is actually going to, if it hasn't already disappeared, it's disappearing. And my hope from that is that the best, like the cream will rise to the top, right? So what is growth hacking without AI? I don't know. My bigger question is, what is growth hacking with AI? Like, there's so many opportunities, so many different things that I think people haven't even considered yet in terms of that, right? Like death of the search engine, all these sorts of things that, like, to me, I think it's good content, right? Like if you're putting out good content that's getting the eyeballs, that's getting that kind of algorithmic boost as a result of just the sheer eyeballs, then, when you ask GPT a question or when you ask, Claude a question, you're going to pop up. And like, I think it's just one of my favorite Steve Martin quotes is "Be so good they can't ignore you." I think that's what it is.
I love that. I love that. There have been about, I think, two or three guests on this podcast that have actually confessed that before they reached out and, paid for the episode, they checked me up on Claude, they checked me up on ChatGPT, and they checked me up on Grok. And then they were like, the AIs have really great things to say about you. And I'm like, okay, interesting.
That's it. Where they're like, well, he's a handsome man, and he's that could get interesting, man. The future, that could get really interesting when it starts to get a little too personal, like starting to run background checks and AI and things like that.
Yeah, like,
Could get
well,
weird.
I don't blame them. Like, how would somebody from another country pay money to a guy who's in the United Kingdom to be on the podcast and not do some due diligence? I think it's only a stupid person who would do that.
But it's interesting that's where the due diligence happens, right? Because I mean, people have been doing due diligence on podcasts since podcasting, but the idea of going to Claude or going to whatever to do that is, especially when, I mean, like AI hallucination still exists, right? That might be how we got here. Is you were like looking for guests and you were like, somebody in fintech, and then is hallucinated, and it was like, oh, Zach Anderson Pettet, he's great at fintech. I'm hallucinating, right? I don't know. We get here interesting ways, but it's going to be interesting to see how it progresses, definitely, in terms of like actually helping companies grow. But I think it's going to kill some companies real fast too, because a lot of folks spend a lot of money on AdSense, and I don't know if that's going to last that long.
I was talking to somebody yesterday. I'm like, whoa, I wish companies out there knew how much they needed me. Like,
I think a lot of people have said that sentence.
I just wish they know, because really, like, when it comes to AI, any company that refuses to leverage an AI for their growth is actually going to be left behind.
Do you think any company actually refuses though? Or do you think most companies just don't know what to do? That's my theory. Like, I don't think any company is out there like rejecting technology outright. I think a lot of companies are really confused about what to do with these technologies. And that's not just true with AI, it's true with blockchain, that's true with stablecoin, it's more true in financial services, I think, than a lot of other places because of the regulation. It's like, there's this really, really cool thing. I want to put it in, but I also really don't want to get a consent order and $100 million fine. So I'm very, very nervous to put this here. Because if I do, I might have this, 20% spike in, revenue, or 20% decrease in touches, whatever it might be. But I might have to have a really hard conversation with my regulator after, kind of thing. So I think that's to me, that's what I see is fear. It's not even about avoidance or anything like that. It's just pure fear of what it could be.
A fear of the unknown. But
Yep.
there are actually ways around this thing. There are ways around this thing, and of course, if you carry the regulators along, I have a background in audit,
Right.
big four accounting firms. So basically, you need to document. They always say if it wasn't documented, it was not done. Of course, you need to do your due diligence. You need to do your R&D, right? If you do your R&D proper, you'll be in a good place, right? I think when the use of something is unknown, abuse is inevitable. So
Yeah.
if you don't, so that's why I like your perspective. Like, do they even know what they need to do?
They don't. I mean, this, like, 2024, I think, was the year of, it was the, I should have actually probably written something about this, or I'm sure someone did, but 2024, I think, was the year of, like, the board remit, right? It was every board of every Fortune 500 all the way down to, Series B startup saying, AI, we must go AI. What are we doing on AI? AI, it's time for AI. Like, every board meeting, it was just a banging AI hammer over and over again.
It's
But
time for
then
AI.
they were just waiting for you, man. They were just waiting for you. But then that turns around when you have that on high remit, right? Like, that has to, especially if you're talking about, let's say, a 300,000 person company. They say, we need to do something with AI. Everybody looks around the room. Okay, well, we all own different portions of the business. We're all incentivized differently, probably, for the most part, because how often are businesses that size actually incentivized to run the same direction, right? Very rarely. So then you have these little, like, fiefdoms that develop, right? And then you got, like, we're building an AI inside of this that's just going to solve this, but we haven't really thought about, like, it's like, let's say it's on the deposit side, right? And it's going to do something for know your customer, or, like, identification, but they haven't thought about how that connects to the underwriting side, which I'm hoping they have. But a lot haven't, right? Because those are two different parts of the bank, or two different parts of the company. So I think that age of the board remit of 2024, where it was like, do the thing, whatever it is, do the thing, we need a press release, is turning into 2025, which is where we're actually seeing products. We're actually seeing use cases. We're actually seeing, Klarna and OpenAI doing stuff. We're actually seeing, a lot of different things happening in that space that are providing real value. And also, it's not just the Claudes. And I mean, we're talking a lot about Claude and OpenAI, but people are, believe it or not, I should give Copilot and Microsoft their due as well, but people are actually seem to be building really valuable internal AI first engines themselves. And it seems like maybe that's the next, or one of the next, kind of competitive moats to develop in financial services. I mean, if you can build something like that actually connects the dots, right, and solves that data silo issue that I was kind of referring to before, start getting into some interesting territory.
Interesting territory. And of course, speaking of interesting, when you look at the fintech landscape, the world's number one ranked podcaster globally in fintech space is Breaking Banks, by
Is
Brett
it?
King. Yeah,
Wow.
that's
Good for
Brett
you,
King.
Brett. I didn't realize that. Congrats, Brett.
So apparently it's not even my podcast. That's the guy Brett King. He was an economic advisor to Barack Obama, and of course I think he did some work with the Chinese government as well.
Yeah,
He's
which is two very ironic things to put together in a sentence. And he started moving. I mean, he's an OG. He deserves. Speaking of flowers, he deserves some flowers for. I mean, moving, I think, had a really hard time getting moving because he was early, right? Like he chose to start a neobank before anybody was probably ready for a neobank, and ran into some tough times as a result. But anyways, I think you were going somewhere with the actual Brett King piece.
Do you know Brett King has been on this podcast before?
Oh, well, I would expect so. Brett's a talker. He gets out there, you know?
So you are in good company, brother.
Well, as soon as I knew that Francis Ngannou's coach has been on here, I officially feel, I feel in the company of greatness. I feel like I've been elevated.
Shout out to Francis and Guidance coach Dewey Cooper, very, very great guy. He was on episode 50, so 50 of this podcast. Brett King has actually touched on a lot of the things that you were talking about, and it's crazy to think about how he actually predicted a lot of these things that we're seeing today. That's why he's rightly a global top 10 futurist. Like,
agree completely. I think Brett's biggest problem is he's too early on everything. Like that's the thing with futurists in general, is like there's futurists and then there's entrepreneurs, right? Like and then there's futurists and entrepreneurs. And you put those two things together, and I guess you kind of get Elon, which is a whole other thing. But like it's really hard. I think it's really hard to maintain this kind of like trying to put together, the idea of like the Internet of Things with self-driving cars, with the blockchain, with AI, and put that all together in your head and turn that into one company, right? It's too much, right? Especially thinking about like the way that startups are built. Like you start with a thing, right? Like the Klarna just IPO'd. Excuse me. Buy now, pay later. Pretty simple concept at the end of the day, right? You buy it now, you pay it later. It sounds like a credit card, except just a different structure. And now they're, on the New York Stock Exchange. They're the kind of sexiest company on the block, but that's maybe because they started with that niche, right? Like they were maybe a little early. I think they started in 2005. But think about that. Klarna started in 2005, before the actual financial crisis, like that, and they stuck with it all. And here we are in 2025. That's a 20-year success story that, to I think a lot of people, feels like a 3-year success story, right? Then just that persistence and that growth, and like now they're talking about being, the bank to a generation, right? And like at a very interesting level as well. I had the pleasure of interviewing their CMO and getting to talk about some of their future and how they even think about what they are. I think is really interesting, because they do not see themselves as a buy now pay later company, right? They see themselves as the bank of the future. But you can't start there, right? Like you can't. Well, you could raise $150 million and start there, but that presents a whole other set of challenges.
Absolutely. And, Brett King said something on this podcast. He said, the banks of today are going to be limited in terms of their capacity to grow based off based off the complexity of their size. So the size is going to be a disadvantage. So you said something about having organizations that have like multiple divisions, right?
Yeah.
It's difficult to make that unified decision and say, okay, let's go for AI, but you have different pockets of interest. So how do you see that limiting the growth of the big banks of today? According to him, he says they would experience, this gradual phasing out, and you'll see the stars of the future, like the Klarnas and, the digital and agile banks take over.
One, Brett, love you, but I think I disagree. I think that there's a shift that we're seeing, right? So this idea of product market fit is the thing that's mattered forever. And that's in 2005 what Klarna like really started to have, right? They had that, we have customers that want this very specific thing, that don't want to use a credit card, right? That very, very specific. Coming to 2025, my question is, does product market fit or distribution market fit matter more, right? Because if you think about the impact of, so the combination of traditional finance and decentralized finance, Connexus from JPM is a good example, moving billions, trillions of dollars on the blockchain. they couldn't do that if they weren't JPM, and they couldn't do that if they hadn't spent they maybe could have done it without spending billions and billions and billions on R&D, but also they're the biggest bank in the world and they can spend billions on R&D. So if they're able to build something and have the power of the partnership, right, where JPM, but also we can pull in Citi, we can pull in the regional banks, we can pull in Standard Chartered, we can create a consortium of banks that are on the same page and able to move money around in a cohesive and safe fashion. All of a sudden you have one of the biggest, highest producing, highest volume products or platforms, I guess is maybe a better term, out there. So I think we're getting really close to a point of partner or die or something along those lines, but distribution from my perspective matters so much more than product at this point, assuming you have a good product.
Absolutely. I think he actually does agree with what you said, because he said some things along those lines, right? So basically, he was talking about if you don't adopt AI, if you don't start to involve yourself in these strategic partnerships, you will experience a slow death.
Yeah, that I agree with. And I mean, I do what I can to, when I'm in podcasts, not make it money 2020 plugs, but like that is the conversation that we had last year, and that I think it's the conversation we had last year, and this year it's the thing that we're seeing, right? It's actually what people are doing with the technology that's actually making a difference. And the geographical piece of this matters as well, right? You're sitting in London, I'm sitting in Kansas City, very similar cities, obviously. But because in the US, here's a fun little quiz. If you had to guess, how many banks do you think we have in the United States?
Whoa, how many banks? Let me
Because
see.
put it in perspective, like in England or in the UK, I think you have less than 50, something along those lines.
I think you should have over 100 in the US.
We have about 4,500. Yeah. So over 4,000, and it was more than that a few years ago, and they're either getting bought or dying or whatever it is. And it's a lot of it comes from this kind of community bank thing that we have here, where you can drive down the street and you got your local banker, and it's similar to having a personal banker in London. It's just a lot more, it's less posh, right? Like you don't need to have a certain amount of money to have a personal banker if you're working with the community bank. I used to work at a community bank. That's where I learned banking. But how do you scale that, right? Like you can be a $1 billion bank in perpetuity with a decent UX on a mobile app and whatever. But what happens when when the form factor changes? Like when we go from this, right, to whatever Johnny Ive is doing over at OpenAI, and we're going to have like our next thing is just going to be something around whatever that thing is they're working on. Like it's a scary thing to think for some of those banks that aren't the absolute biggest of the biggest, what does happen? Because just the form factor change of mobile almost killed so many companies. What happens with the form factor change of going away from a phone completely, right? I don't have the answer, but it's an interesting conversation.
Technology keeps changing, keeps evolving, and of course, with us being millennials, we've actually seen that evolution over time. It's quite interesting. Think about when we used to use cassettes, the videotapes, the CDs.
Did you have typing
flash.
class?
Definitely, Marvis Beacon,
See?
Marvis Beacon, brother. The way you position your hands, it's
I don't
crazy.
think. I think it's just so funny to think about some of the things that we were taught in school that now are just like kids just do when they're 6 because they're handed an iPad. Like it's just, the world's going to be a very different place in 20, 30 years and an even crazier place in 50. So I don't have the answers to a lot of it, but it's going to be fun to watch, man.
It's just fun, just watching the transition, Blackberries, Nokia, Android, iPhones. Let's see what the future holds.
We'll make that part of the follow-up. I by the time we do the follow-up, maybe whatever it is that Johnny Ive team are working on is out in the world, and we can actually we can talk about that. Who knows?
You just never know. I was telling somebody yesterday that technology is the best and the worst thing that happened to mankind.
Oh, agree completely. Agree completely. I think we may absolutely be ending ourselves very slowly whilst improving the quality of life dramatically for most of the world, right? I mean, that's the other part of the conversation is, are we actually bridging the digital divide? Are we getting people what they need to be able to keep up? Or is this going to, create even larger divides? And that's an unanswered question.
You just never know. But you spoke about something about the fear of AI, and I really don't like that because why would people be afraid of me?
Oh, you're so friendly. Why would it? Come on.
Afraid of me, but there are a lot of prophets of doom when it comes to AI, right?
Yes.
I think a lot of these people have seen too many sci-fi movies. I think that's probably the problem, right? But for me, my perspective is I think AI is an assistant, not meant to be the controller, right? So
Mm-hmm.
AI is as good as the human who is using it. So I have a podcast episode with Mark Andrews. He's also in the US. He's a tech guru, and I think that episode is titled "Humans First, AI Next." Right. So when you look at what you're able to do with AI, say, let's take ChatGPT for example.
Sure.
Some people want to do a project or do an assignment or have a query with ChatGPT. I look at them, I say, do you know how much I have trained my own ChatGPT? ChatGPT is on steroids, bro. And
I think a lot of
LLM,
people don't know they can do that though. That's the thing.
they don't know.
It's
Don't
education.
know. They
It's
don't know.
education.
Like prompt engineering is a thing on its own, right? And of course, training your AI to, do work for you at an accelerated speed and of course in line with your reporting preference, right? A lot of people don't know. And I tell them, they're like, some people like to shame you for using AI. I'm like, I don't really care about what you have to say, right? Ask your chat GPT the same question.
Go
Ask
on.
and I'll ask my own the same question and you're gonna see the difference. And
Why would you not?
I
Like, if
I did it
I
with
don't,
somebody and do you know what they said? They said, wow, how come my chat GPT is so dumb?
that's a very interesting perspective. I don't know. I mean, my perspective on the whole thing is that I don't think AI is going to. So my favorite AI movie is Ex Machina. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but if you haven't, go watch it. One, it's beautiful. Two,
I'll try. I only see movies based on recommendations. Actually, I'm not a movie person. I'm a music person.
it is one of the best how AI will impact the world. It's kind of like it's a movie, but it feels like an episode of Black Mirror. And the idea is kind of like, if it's loosely based on kind of one of the Google founders, probably like a Sergey Brin or somebody like that, goes to this private island. They're developing human-like AIs around them. Like the whole island is just actually human-like AIs. And spoiler alert, at the end, one of them escapes. It just go watch it. It's great, but it is scary. It is really scary to think about. And I think when people watch movies like that, or they watch Her, or they even see some of the news about people's best friends being ChatGPT, like I think it either makes you scared or sad. But from a business perspective, I worry less about this idea that AI is going to get rid of the workforce or something like that. One of my favorite quotes that I don't know if it should generate, I think it's by now it's kind of just a truism, but I heard it first from Jenny Goldberg, who is at OpenAI. Shouts to Jenny, one of the true fintech OGs. She's been through fintechs and then ended up at OpenAI, and just amazing human. But she actually opened, it was like one of the worst, like not worst, one of the first words spoken at Money 2020 last year was, your job is not going to be taken by AI. Your job is going to be taken by somebody who knows how to use AI, right? Like whoever can actually co-pilot. And like I was talking about, my best friend earlier before we started talking, and that man, I mean, I think he does the work of 3 people at least in a single day based on his work with AI. And he's the one that's taught me everything I know, right? Like I have to output, because of a lot of the work we do, I have to output a lot of scripts. I do a lot of kind of creative writing type of stuff. man, if I didn't have the tools that I used to do one script, I think to do one script well would take me at least 2-3 hours. And I've gotten to a point now where I can turn out 12 scripts, or not, let's say like 6 scripts in 6 hours.
That's the thing with AI, and that's even because you have a very high taste and quality. That's why
Yeah,
they
that's the thing. You're not just like
yeah.
churning them out.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, because you need to
I'm
re-engineer and
exactly.
change the prompt. It's crazy. Somebody saw me with a prompt for a particular project, and I had that prompt in Microsoft Word, and I think the prompt was well over 15 pages, and they're like, "Is this just a prompt?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it is a prompt." And then they're like, "Well, then what is the main report itself?" I said, "Don't worry, prompts can actually get that long if you know what you're doing in terms of your prompt engineering. But
Yeah,
if
yeah.
people don't
I
know these
mean,
things,
especially, I mean, speaking, to the diary of a CFO side, I mean, the impact on a CFO's life should be nothing but positive as a result
yeah,
of this, right? Taking the data, resulting out like insights, like if you're not getting real positive, I'm not going to say positive output, because if you're not making any money, it's not a positive output. But if you're not getting real productivity as a CFO out of using AI, there's a disconnect. You're missing something. You're not using something. Something needs to change, I guess, is what I would say. And in my experience, it's just trying it. I think, we were talking earlier about fear. I think, a lot of people that maybe like went to accounting school or whatever it is, I like, maybe not like I like my Abacus, but like I like my Excel. And there's a lot more to be done in the world with a lot less time now that we have some of these tools.
we shout out to people like Data Rails. That's Excel on steroids. So basically, it has come for everybody. You cannot run. You can,
You can
yeah,
run, you can hide, but AI's coming, baby. It's gonna find you. It's
yeah.
gonna find you.
It's gonna find you, right? Talking about fintech, right? You've actually like won like so many hearts, from founder to strategist to fintech thought leader. So, what's the personal mission? What's the why that drives your journey in fintech?
Yeah, well, when I started in fintech, AI was still a thing that, we were not talking about. So for me, the origin story of why I really care, and I'll leave a lot of the companies nameless, was I was doing an internship in college. It was for a large investment bank, and it was specifically for wealth management. Going to the office every day, putting on that, suit that didn't quite fit because I couldn't afford one that actually did, just kind of looking a little scrubby, but, sitting in meetings and selling index funds and, like balance portfolios to folks, and doing generally what would be considered, the term fiduciary would be, yeah, of course, based on your background, of course you do, would be considered fiduciary level advice, right? But what I didn't realize is that you can, as a fiduciary, also be a registered broker dealer, right? So we have that
Sounds
hat.
like conflict of interest. It sounds
Yeah,
like conflict of interest.
it's not conflict. You hit the nail on the head. We were talking about this hat earlier, so I'll use it now. So
Show me
basically,
the money.
so the hat says, "Lucky me, I see money," and I almost wore it just because, but it was a little bit too on the nose. But we'll use it for this example. So we were selling these, responsible portfolios. And then suddenly we go to lunch with a salesperson that will remain nameless from a company that will remain nameless, but they were selling annuities specifically. And what we could make selling, index funds and, fiduciary products was 25 basis points, 30 basis points, something like that on assets. But as soon as you take off that fiduciary hat and you toss on this bad boy and you're a broker dealer, you can start doing a lot of creative things. And I look like an idiot with this on the top of my head, but you can become, without telling the client, you could go from, hey, here's a thing you should buy. Here's a thing we should put in your portfolio, I guess is what I should say. And then you can take off that fiduciary hat and say, oh, and just, really to cover you, because it's an insurance product, you should have an annuity as well. Oh, by the way, I'm going to kind of not share this with you, but instead of making 25 basis points, I'm going to make 300 basis points. I'm going to make 3% on this product. And from that lunch, we went back to the office, and that afternoon we started selling annuities basically in every single meeting. I mean, there were some times that where they were like, literally 22, where it would almost be illegal to sell somebody an annuity. But if it was even close to the idea that you could sell them an annuity, the attempt would be made, because you're making, if you have 100K to invest, wouldn't you rather, make 3,000 instead of, like, come on, right? That's incentives. But that's a very broken incentive system. So from that moment, I just struck me like this bolt of wildly unethical lightning. And I just decided I wanted to spend the rest of my life in finance and hopefully die leaving it 1% better than I found it. So started joining startups, studied entrepreneurship in school, realized that meant absolutely nothing. So I talked to my teachers into basically letting me go join startups instead of come to class. And I think I graduated with one of the lowest GPAs you possibly could, but I talked him into it. And I've been working in startups ever since. I think since junior year in what you would call uni.
Oh,
So the answer is anger, basically.
mm, like
Just anger at the system.
you picked business acumen. You knew that business acumen was the real deal. During my time at PwC, they had this 5 criteria framework for evaluating professionals: for leadership, business acumen, technical competence, building relationships, and global acumen. So for me, I've always taken building relationships and business acumen very, very seriously, because, and of course, your whole leadership. How do you lead yourself? How do you lead your team? I love that framework a lot, because I told my colleagues, these guys have literally given us the cheat code to succeed in life.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think if you can find a way to act ethically and make money at the same time, you're living the dream. And that's what I think people miss that a lot about finance, where, and especially that's the beauty of fintech, right? Like, the biggest impact of fintech to this point over the last 10 years probably isn't actually the fintech companies. Like, Robinhood's big, Chime's big, Klarna's big, N26 is in Germany big. There's a lot of these companies that are big, Plaid. But if you think about the impact of Chime as an example, or of Revolut, where did all the overdraft fees go, right? At the big banks. All the overdraft fees went away because all of a sudden these fintechs were offering no overdraft fees. And then, in America, there's the 2-day early pay. I don't know if you guys have that, but the 2-day early pay thing that Chime had. So that was like Chime's entry. They were, sign up for Chime, get your pay 2 days early. It was so simple. And you're not really taking any risk.
We have that. We have that here as well.
Yeah.
Revolut, Monzo.
Yep. So, I mean,
Yeah.
think about the risk you're taking. You're taking payroll risk, which is pretty much like the only risk you have is, like, if that person gets fired somehow between payroll getting run and, like, actually there isn't any, because even then the payroll's still going to run. So why would you not just kind of bank on the fact that the payroll is going to run, get that money in there, and acquire an unbelievable amount of users just in a small amount of time because of a very, very basic feature. And now you see the likes of, some of the larger banks saying, get your money 2 days early, right? And
Let's do that as well.
and from Robinhood, you see, like, when was the last time you logged on to anything and saw a trading fee? Their trading fees are gone. So
Yeah.
the impact of fintech at this point, I mean, it's been big, but I would argue that the societal impact mostly has been in that fintech has pushed these huge organizations to be more ethical.
They've given them a run for their money. Big time.
Exactly.
Big time. And of course, it links back to the spirit of a perfect competitive market. I have a first degree in economics, but a lot of people don't even know that, because of the fact that my career has actually been mostly in accounting. Economics teaches you a lot of things at the micro and looking at, and I think economics is mostly about optimization. So how do you optimize the benefits to the consumers, and of course create a perfect competition market. So in a perfect competition market, you would have zero or low charges, right? And of course, there's no barrier to the entry in the market. So it forces people to bring down the prices to that, equilibrium point.
Or
Previously, the lack of competition, made those guys raise the bar in prices, and that was not beneficial to the consumers. You're going to say
yeah,
something.
yeah. I mean, if you have a monopoly or an oligopoly, you can charge whatever the hell you want to charge, right? But the more competition, it's going to drive prices down. I mean, the beauty of fintech is exactly what you're talking about. It's
And it
exactly
pushes
that.
innovation. It,
Yep.
it, it, it pushes innovation. That's the thing. I
Yeah.
think competition basically drives innovation. But I stand to be corrected, but that's what I think. Like competition is the fuel for innovation.
I think so. I think competition drives innovation, and I think innovation drives competition. I mean, both, right? At the end of the day, like if you think
It's a
about
loop.
AI,
It's a
yeah,
loop.
with AI as an example, like it's kind of just like here's a technology that we just like threw into the fray, and now everybody's like, well, we got to do something with it. Whoever does the best thing with it is probably going to win. So sprint, right? I mean, it can go both ways for sure.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like a loop. But coming back to your own personal experience, like you worked at MBKC, Visa, like how did that shape your perspective and what fintech innovation is truly impactful?
Yeah. So VSUM was I'll separate the two a little bit. So MBKC was working in a community bank. It was a not thousand. It was $1 billion bank, which in the US in terms of assets is pretty
It's
candidly
low.
tiny, really.
It's
But it
immaterial.
had, say again?
I said it's immaterial, basically.
Basically, yeah. Yeah. I mean, you got to be, but if you structure the bank correctly and you think about building that business correctly, it can produce the revenues of a bank much larger with much lower risk, right? So, and with a much lower employee count. So that bank was fascinating in that it was and is one of the top, I don't want to get it wrong, so I'll use a larger number, top 20, 25 mortgage lenders in the US, right? It's $1 billion bank in Kansas City. But because of the ability to do business online and, rate tables like NerdWallet, things like that, people were finding that the customer service was unbelievable, the speed was unbelievable, and this little bank that's NBK, it's just four letters. Why? What is this? But that rate looks good. Whoever just called me after I applied for the loan, they seem nice, they seem trustworthy, and the Midwest does have kind of a we're known for being a little more trustworthy than maybe if a New York banker's calling you. No offense to my New York friends. But we figured out this thing, or I shouldn't take any credit for it because it happened before I got there. They figured out this machine, but that machine needed to be funded, right? And $1 billion bank is not sitting on enough enough deposits to be able to lend out the amount that was necessary to be able to satisfy those loans. So we would always go to we would every single night, every single day, go to what was called the Federal Home Loan Bank, which the idea is basically it's this big pool of money where we could go pull from, fund the loan, and then securitize the loan and sell it off. So we can stay this small. We can stay, NBKC, this community bank where I still bank, where I still walk in and talk to Robin, my friend Robin, and she hooks me up with my checking deposits and all that stuff. But we can function on this national level. So my job there was actually growing deposits. It was how do we go out, especially in this world of fintech, as the Chimes and all of these groups are starting to grow, and be the bank behind that fintech, right? Because if you think about it, the biggest expense of growing these businesses is just customer acquisition. And if we can just be on the back end of that, then we can let the Chimes of the world, which Chime was not actually a partner, but I'm just using it as an example, we can let them go acquire those customers. All of a sudden, our balance sheet is growing like crazy as far as the deposits go, right? So our ability to lend becomes a lot more profitable. So if from the federal, I'm trying to kind of keep it simple. From the Federal Home Loan Bank, let's say we would have to lend for we would borrow for 3%, and then we would put out the loan at 4%, just to keep math simple, 1% spread. If we partner with a fintech, that's not free, but it's inherently a free deposit. It's like me walking in the bank and saying, here's $10. lending out that $10, all they need to do is make sure that they're actually compliant and can give me that $10 back eventually. Now we have a 4-point spread on that loan, right? Which the impact of that is gigantic. So
Yeah,
really
with the
that was
volume.
exactly. So that was my job, was find creative ways to build the deposit side of the business. And that led to working with startups. That led to, we built an internal accelerator where we would actually fly companies to Kansas City for a 75-day like intense process where they would go from no partnership to full partnership, keeping in context that like the average time it took to build one of these, a year, 6 months, something like that. We were doing it in 75 days. That was the thing, because like the only advantage that a Midwestern tiny bank has is speed. So that was the thing that we figured out there. We did some investing that worked out pretty well. And basically what that was for me was learning banking. Like if I had not spent that time there, I would not understand banking balance sheets. I wouldn't be able to talk about the Federal Home Loan Bank. I wouldn't understand reading between the lines on regulation. Like there's so many things that I think a lot of folks in fintech miss out on by not getting that experience inside of a true bank. So I could talk about that experience for forever, but that's basically what that was. And then VSum was started with one of my favorite people on earth, a guy named Ben Milne. What has he done now? He's on his second company. His first one was called Dwala, and it was a very Web 2 payments company. You can almost think of it as a Stripe-esque sort of situation, but out of Des Moines, Iowa. So a little harder to raise money, a little harder to, kind of scale things a little bit, but it's a $1 billion company. He's now moved on to his second. He's doing something completely new now, and he's actually building a stablecoin company. So he's gone from Web 1 or Web 2 to Web 3, I suppose. But during COVID, we just got bored, and we wanted to find a way to, kind of continue the community and the ecosystem and learn this entirely new set of technologies that was coming out, right? Like at that point, I didn't know how to set up a digital wallet, right? I didn't know what a digital wallet was. And I'm not talking about Apple Pay, right? Like I'm talking about cold storage. I'm talking about all of these intricacies of the blockchain and of Bitcoin and buying Ethereum and, how do you mint an NFT, all of these
The
things.
altcoins.
Exactly. All of it. And so what VSum was really an online virtual community where we would get to meet companies like Paxos and Tether and et cetera, companies that you see today is like the companies, right? Like I think we even had Circle Present back in the day, which is crazy. But from that, I mean, I learned the underlying infrastructure of DeFi. So I separate the two because they're very different experiences, and one was a job and one was a hobby. But if you think about like how the world's coming together today, I very accidentally stumbled into the exact intersection of what's happening, right? It's this coming together of TradFi and DeFi and what that actually means for the world. I definitely would not give myself the credit to say that I knew that that's what this all was going to be. But, if you line it up in reverse, it kind of the story comes together into what is happening today.
Interesting stuff. Like sometimes great things happen out of, would I say, lucky mistakes or,
Oh yeah.
yeah, I'll say lucky mistakes. Just like I was reading something some years ago. I heard that the person who invented silk
Okay.
invented it by way of a lucky mistake. And I'm like, wow, interesting. And I remember when I was interviewing with KPMG in the UK, and the lady asked me, why did you get into audit? I'm like, I did not choose audit, audit chose me.
That's deep.
Yeah, that's the thing. Sometimes you don't choose a line of work. It just happens that maybe one door closed, and at first, people always say, "Oh, you'll be good at this thing. Try it out." Somebody just told me, "Try it out. Try Peter," and literally, and
Yeah.
that's
And
all
there
she
you
wrote.
go. Yeah.
That's all she wrote.
I was supposed to have an internship with the Kansas City Chiefs before, and
Wow.
I found out it was going to be a 50-hour a week unpaid internship while I was still in school.
Whoa.
And I do not come from money, my friend. So I like basically I was like, how in the world could I possibly do this? And there's like a high-end car wash here in town where I was selling car washes. And that's actually how I met the general manager of the Chiefs and just annoyed him for, I think, 2 years before finally they gave me that offer. And I was like, okay, I'm in, I'm doing this. I'm taking 6 months off school, like going all in. And then I found out it was unpaid. And it was like, I just took 6 months off school. Like, I don't know. What do I
Like, yeah, I'll
do?
pass.
Well, I did pass, but I had no backup. I didn't know what to do next. So one of my other regulars from the car wash was the wealth manager that that got me to that internship I told you about that got me into finance. So
Oh,
yeah, I
wow.
mean, it's wild how these things happen.
Happenstance. These things happen sometimes, and then people be like, "Oh, so you had it all planned out."
No,
Sorry.
no,
Spoiler alert. I did not have it all planned out. It just worked out together. And of course, for me, I'm a person of faith, believe strongly, in the Christian faith and the Bible. There's this verse that says, all things work together according to his purpose. So, like, I see that happen, in my life a lot. Like, things just happen. Sometimes a door closes and of course another one opens. And of course, opportunities come up. I remember like my very, very first, what would I say, contract, right? I ever had in my life. What happened? I'll sit it. I used to lecture professional students, and what happened was I was lecturing one of my students private lessons, and there was this corporate training they needed to do. And this guy picks up the phone and like, oh, we need you to do training. And then he was like, oh, what's the date for the training? And he was like, oh, I'm not available for that date. I'm out of the country. And he says, okay, I'll try to find you an alternative. He called the first guy. The first guy said, oh, I'm not available for that date. He called the second guy. And the second guy was like, oh, I'm not available for that date. And then he looked around, he saw me, he was like, bro, what's up? Can you handle this training? And guess what? My best Bible verse is Philippians chapter 4, verse 13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I'm like, yeah, I can do all things, man. Through Christ who strengthens me. And he was like, okay, check out the topics and can you develop material for this? I'm like, I can do all things. And they gave
say
me,
yes, right?
yeah,
Like at the end,
that.
put good stuff into the world, and you'll get good stuff back. And I think
And
the other thing is just say
that
yes to
was it.
everything.
I'm telling you, like, preparation meets opportunity, call it success. But I think about that situation a lot. Like, I wasn't the first choice, I wasn't the second choice. I was not even the third choice. I was the fourth choice.
For a reason, probably. I mean, we'll never know that reason. That reason is it's ethereal. It's up in somewhere, but it ended up that way for a reason, man.
Yeah, and of course, I was also at the right place at the right time, right?
Yep.
But it's all about when you develop certain skill sets. If the opportunity comes, yeah, you can get it. But a lot of people don't even develop themselves to the extent that you can even be granted an opportunity, and that's very sad.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, I think again, so much of this comes back to education. At the end of the day, like I hope to spend a large portion of my life in finance, but from there, I really, really hope that I'm able to spend from, I don't know, hopefully I'm able to make enough money that by 45, but let's say 50, 55, that I spend the rest of my life in education and not just teaching, but like, what is the next version of schooling? And if anything, I should be focusing on this right now, probably as AI is coming around, because this is the moment that education is going to change completely. That education already is changing completely, right? Like we're able to educate ourselves in a way that we
Mhm.
never could before. So yeah, I mean, all of these things are about a mix of things, but I also think the one thing that you kind of said there that like brings it all together is showing up,
Mhm.
right? Like if you just continuously show up, you're gonna end up in the right conversation with the right person, and it's just gonna kind of happen.
Absolutely. Show up and show out.
Well,
Speaking of
yeah,
education,
you got a little more show out than I do, but when given the opportunity, I shall show out. Indeed.
okay, there's something I say. There's a theory I came up with, and I like to put it to you because you brought up the concept of education. I think the capacity of a human being is dependent on four E's:
Okay.
four: education, enlightenment, experience, and exposure.
Education, enlightenment, experience, exposure. I don't think I could disagree. I think there's a lot of levels inside of that, right? I think
Yeah.
to me, the one is exposure that goes beyond all of those. I mean, there's like, I think what you're talking about is like the table stakes of a potentially successful human, right? Like everything you just said is like what you got to do to get to a certain place, right? But I never thought I would work in events, just to be totally candid, right? Like I studied entrepreneurship. Like I thought I was going to spend my entire life just building companies, either founding them or being, early employee in that, whatever it might be. But the exposure of, I mean, I've been in Money 2020 for 4 years. I never thought I was going to work in events. I've been here 4 years. And one of the big reasons is not exposure from the perspective of I stand on stage in front of 5,000 people and they know who I am, but I get to stand backstage with the CFO of OpenAI for 10 minutes before she goes on stage, right? Like the vice chairman of IBM, Gary Cohn, who was actually in the first Trump administration and spoke last year at Money 2020. Whatever your opinion on the Trump administration might be,
I am not American, so I
yeah,
am neutral.
if you're not American and your opinion is neutral, then you're just lying. But we can pass it. We can go past that.
Whoa. You know the interesting thing. You know the interesting thing, right?
Yeah.
Personally, like I love being neutral. Like people that know me know that I love neutrality. Why? Because think about it. I am trying to be a global top-rated podcaster. I'm trying to be one of the top journalists in the world. And
But you got opinions.
Yeah, I have my personal opinions. I'm not gonna lie, right? So, for example, I don't support any football team that is what you guys call soccer. And one thing I've noticed about neutrality is the fact that when you're neutral, it helps you to be able to form the best informed opinions because you're not taking sides.
Yeah.
And I think I learned that from my work in audit, right? You have to be independent of your client in order to be able to do the best job and of course make a well-informed opinion about their financial statements. So
Yeah.
you cannot maybe have shares in them or know somebody on the board or have friends in top management for you to make a good decision. You will never make that good decision. So as much as possible, I try to, draw myself out of,
Yeah.
taking sides. So basically it's like would I say a conscious decision. So but whenever I take sides, I only say I am taking this side and this is why. So
Yeah. I get that from an ethical perspective. I completely agree. And also in the world that you live in, if you say you're a Liverpool fan, you're just going to lose listeners, right? Like, and if you say you're a Tottenham fan, you're just going to lose listeners. So I completely understand that from that perspective. But at the end of the day, we all, we have our opinions. And I'll be honest as to what my opinion was before I met Gary Cohn. The man, he's you say I'm the man, the myth, the legend. And I say that to a lot of my guests as well. But I mean, he was at Goldman for over 20 years. I will leave it to Goldman Sachs. Yeah. I will leave it to others to look at what his separation package was, but let's just say it was enough to, if I remember correctly, it was over a couple $100 million. So the man did all right just leaving Goldman Sachs. And I should double check that, but it was big. So you think of this guy, I mean, you just kind of assume Wall Street fella, part of the Trump administration, like especially the first Trump administration, like you just kind of assume a certain something, right? And then I get backstage. It's that big Monday morning. He's the big, first opening keynote. He's over in the corner. He's got his, his GC, everything's monogrammed, looking too fresh. I can't even handle it. Like I'm literally nervous to go say hi to this guy.
Success leaves clues.
Exactly. And I walk over to him and he was in the middle of something. I'm nobody to him, right? Like I'm just some guy that like I'm dressed up as if I'm about to get on stage. I have a microphone like in my hand. So I think he assumed something of substance was maybe going to come out of my mouth, but I'm nobody to him. He set everything down. like just completely took everything he was doing, set it down, gave me his undivided attention, shook my hand. We talked for like 10 minutes and I fell in love with this man. Like I like truly, I was taken in by his personality. I was taken in by his candor, and I fully expected him to get on stage and kind of just be a banker, get on stage and be a banker government guy. But he got on stage and he just started going. He was just like, I disagree with this. This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard over here. We should be doing this, not this. Like it's, you get surprised by people, and that exposure is addictive, right? Like getting to actually know that side of a human and actually getting to meet some of these people, I mean, what that will ever lead to, no idea. But I mean, maybe sometime in the future I'm working with Gary Kahn. I hope. I kind of doubt it, but I hope. But more so, it gives you that exposure to realize maybe you shouldn't judge so fast. Maybe you should
Yes,
have a little more empathy, and I think a lot of what you were talking
absolutely.
about before is really about empathy.
Yes, because really, I don't know, like in my life, that's something I like to say never, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have realized that so many times I have been wronged by taking a side. So many times I have been wronged by judging a, a people or institutions or anything at all before observing the facts. And of
Yep.
course, being a science guy, you know, empiricism is the order of the day. So if you judge by the facts, you follow the data points, you follow the numbers, you follow what you can observe, right? So if I cannot observe it, with my own eyes, I don't think it makes sense to form an opinion about it. Speaking of about what you experience with the guy, one thing I've experienced with successful people is they're oftentimes humble
Yeah, much more than you
because
expect.
they
They're
yeah
humans too.
they have nothing to prove.
Yeah.
But people that are wannabes try too hard, and it's crazy. So for me, like I've decided to embrace that culture, that attitude of having nothing to prove to anybody.
Be
Because
yourself.
when you take $100 bill, right, and you put it on the ground, you step on it, you put it in mud, and you say, "Oh, you are $50." Take it to the shop. It's still gonna be recognized as $100.
Yeah.
So that's the way I see myself. It's not on you to tell me who I am. Like my value is intrinsic. My value is set by God. So it's not on you. So whatever you say, it's your business, right? I know who I am, and of course I know who my God says I am. So basically, like over time, I think in a person's life or with you achieving success over time, just discover that you have nothing to prove to anybody. You just need to be yourself. So
And
like
make
the
yourself proud. Like if you
I'm
can lay
telling
down, if
you,
you can lay your head on the, on uh, how can I not think of the
on the
word pillow?
pillow, on the
Thank you.
pillow.
On the pillow at the end of the night and feel good about what you did. Like, I mean, what else is there, man? It's life's only so long, and there's only so many hours in a day, and might as well spend them trying to do something good.
Absolutely, some people feel like, oh, I want revenge. I want my, okay, like there's this crazy talk that somebody was telling me recently of like, oh, they want their ex to see them as a richer person. I'm like, what, what the hell? Like, are you living for your ex, bro? Like, live for yourself, be
Yeah.
successful for yourself,
Yeah.
not because of your ex. And the funny thing, she likely doesn't even give
She's not paying
an F
attention.
about you.
Yeah.
So what are you talking about? I don't like people who live for other people's validation. I don't like it at all.
No,
Like,
no. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's the emptiest way you can live. Like if you're just be happy with yourself, be happy with what you're doing, try
mhm,
to do something good for the, I mean, I know that I am not going to, change this industry dramatically, right? Like no one person can change finance in 75 years that much. Technologies can, but there's a very few number of people that really can change this industry dramatically in
mhm,
one lifetime, right? So I just want to change it by 1%, right? Like
mm,
if I can just do that, then I'm pretty damn happy with what I've done with my life. And as long as I take some tiny step towards that each day, if it's a podcast, a conversation, if it's a, an introduction from an entrepreneur to another, like whatever it might be, like it's just, it all builds, right? It all builds that momentum and that flywheel into goodness.
Interesting stuff. But you know the funny thing, right? A lot of people who actually build, things that are highly impactful did not really think it was going to blow up that much. They just set out to solve a problem.
Yeah, Stripe.
Right? And
that's literally Stripe.
That's the thing. Just try to solve problems. And that's
Yep.
what I do. Try to solve problems. A lot of times, like big breaks that I've had personally, like I did not go chasing them. It just happened. And I go chasing certain things and never get it. So what's the point?
But the chase still matters, right? Like at the end of the, like, if you're not getting up every day, doing that work, chasing after whatever that thing is, like, you're not going to get the opportunity you didn't expect. So you still got to do the work. You still got to chase it.
Exactly. Just like the example I gave, previously, because for me, it's all about solving problems. When you are busy, wake up every morning and you're out there to solve problems, don't worry, something's going to happen.
Exactly, man. Exactly. Just get up and work. Get up and work.
I'm telling you, the interesting thing. I don't know if I still have that alarm. I did have an alarm with the same exact words I just said. Get up and work. I have an alarm right on my phone with that same exact words that you said. Get up and work.
Oh, I love that. I need that.
It's motivation. It fuels you. Like I have different alarms, for different times of the day. This alarm is a motivation for this. This alarm is a motivation for that. I think it's good for people to visualize things. I don't know, different strokes of different folks, but for me, like when I see it, if I can read it, then we can make it happen.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Whoa, Money 2020. It sits at the heart of global fintech conversations. So, like, what are the top trends currently reshaping how fintechs approach innovation and growth?
Man, talk about a big question. I mean, we've talked about a lot of it already, right? Like the world of traditional finance having permission from a regulatory perspective to now start working in the decentralized finance world. Like, you can't really get into a conversation about fintech right now without talking about stable coins. Like it's impossible. Stablecoin this, stablecoin that. Exactly. It's everywhere.
USDT.
Exactly. So that's one side of it. But at the same side, or not the same side, the other side of the same coin is AI.
On the flip side.
Yeah. And I think what excites me the most is not DeFi and TradFi coming together. It's not AI moving into financial services. It's the sum of all these things being greater than the parts, right? Like when you start thinking about the impact of a smart contract on Ethereum, hypothetically, whatever, being applied with an AI agent from Visa, MasterCard, pick it, alongside a power of attorney that you're giving to this AI that is able to make financial decisions on your behalf, right? You're getting really close to this idea of self-driving money. And it's a scary idea because this is Angela Strange's theory or thesis from, God, I don't know. She wrote this almost 7-8 years ago, something like that. But she wrote it before a lot of this technology existed. But now when you really think about it, like AI agents for commerce, AI agents for all these different things are starting to come about. Are they all great? Maybe not. But if you fast forward 5 years and you think about what could happen if you combine the idea of, just your current account, just the basics, right? And wealth management, just the basics. But you're adding on the idea of blockchain technology, the security therein, validation of identity, all of these, portability of identity. And you throw in the idea that an artificial intelligence that, to our earlier point in the conversation, has been trained by us, right, to make these sorts of decisions, to manage the budget or to make a purchase here, not there. That's world changing, right? When you start thinking about the combination of all these things together, the world changes dramatically. So there's a lot of like real-time payments. There's so many cool things happening in fintech right now, and all of them will be discussed at Money 2020. But I think the biggest thing that's hardest to talk about, because it's such a big thought, is what happens when you combine all these things.
Thought what
Food for
happens
thought
like
indeed. Food for thought indeed. Yeah. Yeah. It's something that is convoluted enough with enough layers of nascent technology that, I mean, it's just the ability to speak to depth on it. There's probably 5 people in the world, that could really have an educated conversation about what that would look like. I'm not one of them. I'm just excited about it, and that's kind of the beauty of
Why?
my job and your job. We get to ask the questions, right? Like at the end of the day, is asking
I'm
the right
telling
question matters so much.
telling you. Well, bro, I think you should have conversations with Brett King, because Brett King told me something. He said something about me to tell people that you are the kind of person with the right curiosity to ask the right question.
I mean,
So
yeah, candidly, it's weird to be a guest on podcasts sometimes, as you can probably tell. Like I have a hard time not asking questions back to you, because
yes,
it's
right?
hard,
So
man.
guess what? Earlier today, I published an episode with a guy in the UK called Kevin Appleby. He's the
Okay.
host of host of Grow CFO. So Grow CFO, they're really doing a great job in the UK. They are like a community of helping CFOs grow. Basically, they mentor CFOs and provide trainings, and all whatnot. So we did a collaboration. So I was on this podcast and he was on my podcast. Like being on another person's podcast is really hard. You're holding yourself back from asking.
But why do we do that though? For me, the beauty of podcasts is the conversation, right? Like
Mhm,
as if I hold like I'm sure I have some opinions or some knowledge because of time in banking or fintech or whatever that you don't have, but you
mhm.
spend time in audit, you spend time in all these different portions that I don't have. So why would we
Yeah.
spend the whole time with you asking me quite like it should be a conversation. Like the listener is going to get
I,
so much more out of the idea of us just talking about our mutually shared or not shared experiences and how they do or don't fit together than
mhm,
just me saying Federal Home Loan Bank. Like
mhm.
it's just different.
Then you should go watch the episode with Kevin Appleby,
I
first,
will.
especially the testimonial. So he was saying that what he really enjoyed about the episode was that it was a conversation. Wasn't according to him, he said he's been on podcasts wherein the host is so I've forgotten the exact words he said, but he said something along the lines of the host mounting pressure on the guest as though they are like a journalist that is getting a politician to make a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, unless you're Kara Swisher, why in the world would you do that? I just do not understand the idea of like if it's not about politics. And I mean, here's a hilarious example. Kind of hilarious, kind of really sad. Do you remember when Benjamin Netanyahu went on the Nelk Boys podcast?
Oh, the Israeli prime minister.
Yeah. Do you know Nelk?
Whoa. Yeah, those skinny guys.
Yeah, the ones that do the happy dad beer and just kind of sit there and like fart into microphones and whatever. Like
I don't
they're
know.
not the highest brow podcasters in the world, but they do numbers,
Yeah, it's
right?
crazy. It's
So
crazy, right?
they have Benjamin Netanyahu on and they just kind of talk. And like the most that they disagreed on anything with him was the fact that he liked Burger King more than McDonald's, right? And that like those are the like though in those moments, good God Almighty, do your preparation, have be ready for a real conversation. Don't just
Hmm.
sit down with someone who is one of the most important political figures at the
Hmm.
center of one of the most intense moments in history and
Hmm.
have a debate about McDonald's versus Burger
Uh,
King. That's not the time. But for the most, when you're not doing that, like why not just have a conversation? You're going to get a lot more out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Like free flowing. And I think I really, really am grateful to that training from the Big Four. They tell us ask open-ended questions, ask probing questions, ask questions driven with curiosity, learn. And of course, you need to learn before you can earn. It's
Yeah,
just the
and give
agency.
up. I would even say give up some earning to get some learning. Especially
Yes,
early in
yeah,
your career. Like
yes. A lot of times
if
you have to do that.
yeah, work. I the numbers I was making when I was first starting in startups were not not
Hmm.
significant, but the amount that I learned from that was worth 1,000 times what I was making. And I would give that advice to, especially to younger folks, over and over and over again: is give up
You
some
read my
earning to
mind.
get some learning.
You read my mind. It's just that you need to switch that microphone for a megaphone
Yeah.
to tell the younger folks
Yep.
that.
100%. 100%.
Like I say, it's crazy how, I have conversations with a lot of younger people, especially, the Gen Zs, and it beats my imagination how many of them want increased returns, increased results with minimal input. And I'm like, how, in what world does that work?
It doesn't. I mean, I think we live in this world of Andrew Huberman and, all in optimization. And, I'm waking up at 4 a.m. and I'm getting my 15 minutes of red light, and then I'm pouring Saratoga water into this thing and I'm dipping my face. I mean, we're getting into this world where it's almost like this discrepancy of like, there's this like kind of over glorification of incredibly hard work, right? Or at least it looks like incredibly hard work on Instagram. But is it really? Like, is that actually what's happening at the end of the day? I don't know, because a lot of the technologies, I mean, I think it was Jamie Dimon. I can't remember which CEOs it was, but it was like three of the more significant CEOs. And actually, I don't think it was Jamie Dimon, because this is not a thing he would say. But a number of CEOs are talking about the
Jeff,
impact. Yeah, yeah. A number of CEOs are talking about the impact of AI potentially being that we go to a 3-day work week.
no, no, Jamie would never. He would never
Exactly.
support
That's what I'm
that.
saying.
Like
I don't think it. I don't
he
think it was
wanted the
Jamie.
workers back in. He wanted
Yeah.
the workers.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe the answer is 3 days a week in the office, and, the other 2 days you're not working. The point being, I think there's this really interesting discrepancy between kind of this hustle culture on one side of it, but at the same time, we're being armed with tools now that give us an ability to either produce at such a higher rate or produce at our same rate and then live a life.
Mhm.
And, that's a personal choice around happiness and impact at the end of the day, more than it is anything about, corporate
Mm,
structure or anything like that.
mm. I agree. And for me, okay. Here, I have an opinion, right? So for me, I believe in hybrid culture,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, I believe that organizations that do not adopt the hybrid culture, uh, I think they are going to be counterproductive, counterintuitive, because
truly.
man,
Yeah,
it's here to stay. It's just here to stay.
yeah. If I had to go into the office 5 days a week, I couldn't work for Money 2020.
Mm,
You know,
yeah.
I mean, that's just a fact of where we're at. Like, and I would be happy to move to New York, but that would cost them more money,
Mhm.
right? And so as a result, I'm sitting here in Kansas City. You're in London. There's definitely more value that could come out of this if we were sitting together in person, for sure, right? Like, but a lot of that value would not come from the actual conversation on camera. It would come from the time we spend together before and after, right? Which we got a little bit of anyway. So I think it's just a matter of, is the juice worth the squeeze on some of this stuff? Like,
Cost benefit analysis.
exactly. And I mean, it's lonely too, right? Like sitting in Kansas, speaking of mental health, we were talking before, it gets lonely sitting in a city that is not necessarily New York, trying to build in a New York-esque kind of, global fashion. And that's why every single time I get to get on a plane and go see my team in New York or London, or even get to go to Singapore and see my team there, like the energy that comes with that is so significant. But if I had to do that every day, or if that was just my normal, I don't know if I'd have that same energy. So I agree completely. I think the hybrid is, one, what's necessary to attract the best talent and maintain it.
Mhm.
Two, it actually creates more energy and creates space for creativity and thought that kind of wouldn't exist if you were just, banging in an office 9 to 5, 5 days a week.
Yeah, exactly. People don't realize that entrepreneurship is both an art and a science. So
Mm-hmm.
art, creativity thrives on, would I say, balance and yeah, balance, and also being able to reflect, be on your own, especially interact with nature,
Yep.
and you do really, really, really well. And of course, you're talking about hiring and retaining the best talent. Yesterday, I was a keynote speaker at a webinar for HR professionals. So what a coincidence! I did two webinars with them. One was about business acumen for HR professionals, and of course, I think the other one was on an international standards on HR. So basically, we're seeing that the world is shifting in terms of the way we manage human capital.
Yep.
But a lot of organizations are not, moving at the speed, or would I say, at the average industry speed, and that would actually hurt them if they don't do something about it. But I come from Africa, and financial inclusion is a very, very big issue in
Mm-hmm.
Africa. So how do you see AI bridging that gap of financial inclusion?
See, this is one good question. Two, this is where I kind of get on my high horse a little bit. I think sometimes we get too attached to these new technologies, right? If you think about M-Pesa, if you think about a lot of what has already been deployed across, I won't just take Africa, emerging markets, right? The problems to be solved are ones that for the most part have been solved in developed markets. Are there better ways to solve them with AI or with blockchain or whatever that might be? Like if I implement an underwriting system for the gig economy that has better tracking as a result of actually, I mean, how does AI improve something like, Google Maps, making sure that you're actually stopping the places you're stopping, or things that we like? One of the big underwriting pieces for some of these is even just, how charged you keep your phone, right? Like we don't need groundbreaking technologies to solve a lot of the problems in emerging markets. We need entrepreneurs. We need the people. We need to give a shit about something besides the United States and the EU, is my opinion. And we need to get out there and we need to start building. Like that's what matters more than any of it. And like if part of that is, an open AI enterprise subscription, great. But for the most part, in my opinion, that's a nice to have. Like I think that we need to find creative ways to solve problems that have already been solved. And in some cases, we don't even need to we don't even need creative ways. We just need to put attention on it, right? Because there's a perception that, this group of people doesn't have any money, therefore we're not going to build products for them. But as the cost of technology decreases, and technologies that existed 20 years ago, an API call for this was a terrible example, but like an API call for this was, $10 and now it's a cent. Like, why can't we apply that to this specific thing happening in this specific area of Africa, right? And to me, it's a lot less about AI. It's a lot less about blockchain. It's actually about solving TradFi problems more than anything else. And it's about entrepreneurs caring and realizing that emerging markets are actually a lot more interesting. Like I would, if I'm thinking about like measuring a life, right? Going and starting a company in an emerging market that has an impact on 1 million people and helps them get from, here to here economically, I would much rather do that than start a unnamed, trading company that, doesn't have fees, but sells all of its order flow into certain organizations that then front run their customers and sell that off and make literally all of their money off of, money off of like selling order flow, right? Like what good does that do for the world? Not really. Like you're, if it is free, probably you're paying for it in some way. And it's probably not a way that you actually want to be paying for it. So if you're going to trade yourself to zero, or do you go to an emerging market, build something of use that people actually benefit from every day, and helps the world. Like that would be my answer. I don't think that it's as much about these groundbreaking technologies. I think it's about attention and about diverting entrepreneurial resources and capital to the right places and just like doing the damn thing.
I love what you say about attention. It's actually very important to bring attention to these issues. And first, I've actually done my own little part. So there is this economics, or would I say students competition, that I sponsor in Nigeria. So I finished. I went to the Harvard of Nigeria, by the way. It's called
Cool.
Awolowo University. So they have this annual conference wherein they host about 10 universities, all economics are students, right? So the Kingdoms podcast earlier this year, we had the inaugural, what I say, competition. Like first, give them prize money, and of course, give the winners mentorship, right? So what do? They watch the podcast and take any of the favorite episodes and use the lessons learned from that episode to create an innovative solution to an existing economic problem in Nigeria and make a 5-minute presentation on it.
Yeah. It's sometimes I think we overthink. I mean, especially in the US and the EU, I think we over-engineer, we overthink, we over a lot of things. But especially when you're talking about emerging markets, I mean, I'm oversimplifying it very much, but these are solvable problems, right? It's just that
Absolutely. I think you would love to see the presentations of the
I
winner and the
would.
runner-up.
I would, yeah. I mean, this across the board, these are solvable problems, and the technologies exist to solve them. And for the most part, the technologies are not, in my opinion, the groundbreaking ones that require, someone to know Solidity or something like that to solve. Like a lot of these problems can probably be solved by putting together, a set of the right open source protocols, right? Like
You would be surprised at the simple technology that the winner suggested for providing a solution to the problem she was trying to solve. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, so I'll let you go watch it.
I'll go watch it. But yeah, I mean, I think I also think that a lot of people get paid a lot of money to overcomplicate things, right? Like as soon as you start going and working for an unnamed consulting firm, it benefits you a lot to make things really complicated, right? But as a founder, like that's not going to serve you, especially in the early days.
Absolutely. Like simplicity does it. Like why should you overcomplicate things? Like it gets on my nerves, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Different strokes for different folks. But really,
Agreed.
as an entrepreneur, you discover that the simpler it is, the better it is.
Yeah. And less tech debt, I mean, it's just more scalable, more ability to adjust as new things come in. I mean, across the board, like the simpler you keep it, probably the better it's going to be. I mean, think Klarna as an example again, right? Buy now, pay later. It is in and of itself, like regulatorily, compliance wise, it's this whole new thing that they had to work through is this legal level of. But when you think about it, it's very simple. It's not the craziest thing in the world, right? And from that one kind of groundbreaking innovation that is absolutely groundbreaking, but also not the craziest thing in the world, we see a multi-billion dollar company come out of it because they've been able to listen to their customers and learn and build on top of, and
Iterate and innovate.
exactly.
I think that's just a secret to growth. But of course, speaking of the Klarna IPO and of course market signals, so the IPO actually sparked fresh conversations about fintech valuations and investor confidence. So, from your own vantage point, like what does this moment tell us about the state of fintech markets in 2025?
This is the hard part where I think anybody that tells you that they know everything about finance, or anybody that gives you a really, really convicted answer on something along these lines, that like it means this for the future of fintech, or it means this for the future of public markets, I'd be willing to place a bet that they're wrong. Like the more confident they are about whatever their answer is, I would be willing to bet against them even stronger. So what that IPO tells me is that Klarna was ready to IPO. I know it's the worst answer in the world, but it's
Yeah, so sometimes the truest answers are the simplest ones.
yeah. And I mean, does it signal an opening of IPO markets? Does it signal good things for fintech? It's positive signals across the board, but an IPO is a moment in time, right? It's about continuing that, right? It's about the quarterly earnings after that. It's about the quarterly earnings after that. It's about, half year. It's about all of this. And if you start to see a decline in some of this, it could also mean terrible things. Excuse me.
Mm.
Excuse me.
Speaking about the earnings, right? You talking about the earnings, so I'm just going to corroborate your point and give you a lead up. So growth versus profitability. So how can founders actually balance that growth ambition, right, with profitability in this era where investors are prioritizing the fundamentals again?
See, this is another area that I'm not quite sure about, because I think in traditional fintech, aka I'm gonna build a neobank. One, I kind of think people are done building neobanks in developed nations. Like, I think that, to our earlier conversation in emerging markets, there's a ton of neobank-esque things left to be built. But in here, they've kind of been built. So
We're talking about balancing growth and profits.
growth, yes. So while there is this narrative around unit economics, there's this narrative around all that. But when you look at where most of the VC dollars are going, they're going to AI, right? They're going to these companies that unit economically are selling $1 for 50 cents in a lot of cases, right? And they're being subsidized by VC dollars. So this idea that unit economics is mattering is very true for the Klarnas, is very true for the companies that are prepping to IPO. But is it true across the whole tech industry? I don't know. And I actually think that there's a shift happening back towards let's take absolutely gigantic swings, because especially in the age of AI, like, it's not going to be a zero-sum game, but there's going to be there's going to be a FANG, right? There's probably going to be a set of 10 or less absolutely gigantic winners that come out of this. So, if they're making 20% margins versus 30% margins, I think a lot of VCs at this point, they just want to see growth, right? Like, if OpenAI can end up with 5 billion users, even if they aren't profitable, they can turn on that profit spigot pretty fast, because by that point they've got everybody addicted to the product, right? And addicted in a good way, because it's the co-pilot to their life, right? And if I'm paying $20 a month for it now and they change it to 30, price elasticity, whatever, like, I'm paying 30. It's just I'm gonna do it. I'm not losing my co-pilot, right? Like, that's not an
Yeah.
option. So I I guess I challenge the premise of it a little bit. That being said, I think if you're starting more of a traditional finance company, it's just hard. And I would maybe stay away from doing it unless it's more on the infrastructure side, or unless it's something that's able to scale across the world without having to depend on consumers, right? Like, I think the age of consumer fintech is not over, but it's starting over. And as a result of that, I'm skeptical about how much unit economics really is the focus versus the story of the eventual unit economics, right? Like, as long as you can tell the story about the eventual profitability, then you can get people there. But I don't know how true it is that they care as much as they say they care in Forbes and Wired and TechCrunch and whatever.
Marginal profit versus total profit, right? We'll see what happens in the end. But you just touched the nerve with the pricing of OpenAI, and think about it. What will happen? Like, okay, confession time. I think there was
Okay.
this time I was trying to leave OpenAI to try on some other model. I just discovered that, whoa, so I need to start training this new
Yeah, exactly,
I
right?
need
So
to start training this new thing from the scratch. I'm like, no, no,
yeah,
no, no, no. I'm going back.
there's I mean, I don't know if it's sunk costs is not really the right way to think about it, but like
Mhm.
you are developing, especially because of ChatGPT having memory and some of those things, like
Yeah.
you develop not relationships, hopefully not relationships, but you develop loyalty as a
Mhm.
result of just the product itself. So
Yeah. And people don't understand that, what goes into training your AI, and they just tell you, oh, but this is an alternative. You can just easily switch to this one. It's even cheaper. I'm like, don't worry, you cannot understand.
yeah, and imagine that at an enterprise level, right? Like think about
Hmm.
so one of the biggest companies in the US doing really cool stuff with AI is the Rocket Mortgage actually. So they basically like an underwriting and actually trying to like get somebody through a loan, right? There's a whole bunch of steps in that process. And if you just like apply AI horizontally through that, that's not going to go well for regulators, or there's a lot of things that could fall apart. But if you take a step back like Rocket did and you say, okay, piece by piece, like we're going to turn this into basically microservices, if you will. And
Hmm.
within some of those microservices, we're going to apply AI and explainable AI, not AI that we just, I don't know, it said this, so we did it, because that doesn't work in financial services. So if you can apply AI in specific places in that stack, the outcomes are crazy. Don't remember the numbers off the top of my head. This was a little while back, but Rocket announced something along the lines of like a 20% decrease in touches and a 20% increase in throughput of actual volume, right? And that
Hmm.
was just as a matter of that kind of microservice AI attachment, which I'm keeping very broad because I barely understand it. But that, it's things like that where I think we're really going to see fascinating things happen. I think we're still very, very far away from this AI that we're just going to plug into a bank and it's going to somehow make things better, right? Like stable coins will do that to some degree, but even then, you're not just plugging that in. That requires engineering. There's building
A
that goes into
lot of
all this.
engineering,
Yeah,
a lot of engineering. Prompt engineering is, I don't know, it's a difficult thing, and you get better as you do it more. It's more like driving. You become a better driver by driving more. And I think I like that perspective that Rocket adopted. So that's a project management perspective. Basically, you pull it in
yeah, exactly.
of processes, right? And of course, you optimize, the chains within other processes. So if you optimize those pockets within the processes, definitely you'd have an overall optimization, and that's pretty smart. And that's why we go to school, to learn this thing.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's not as sexy to talk about as, some other stuff, but I mean, it's the stuff that's going to really make a difference in the future of financial services, especially in
Absolutely.
regulated industries. I mean, the same's true in insurance, the same's true across a lot of different spaces, I think.
Even in startups, right? If you adopt that approach, right, just adopt a project management approach, and of course optimize your processes. If you optimize your processes, your systems will be optimized, right? There's automation now, right? I love automation. I don't need to be performing certain repetitive tasks, right? So you automate the financial side to the operations, and you're happy. You don't need to do more. Smart work beats hard work all day long.
But you still need that audit.
Yeah, yeah, but you still need that hard work, because getting that hard work in is even what is going to make you smarter.
Yep. 100%.
Really, you need to know what to do, like you rightly said earlier. If you do not work hard enough, you will not even know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's another one of those things where, I mean, Sam Altman, who it's so weird to me who Sam Altman has turned into, but back when he was, the startup guy, what he would say over and over and over again is solve the smallest problem that you can as well as you can, right? Like
Mhm.
take the smallest pain point and just solve it within an inch of its life, stay as close to your customer as you can, and
Mhm.
iterate, 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 iterate.
Mhm.
And it's possible that whatever that thing is has nothing to do with AI, has nothing to do with blockchain, has nothing to do with any of these things. And if anything, I mean, I hope we don't become over obsessed with some of these new technologies, because there's a it's not great that some of our bank systems are still running on COBOL and like really old mainframes, but there's a reason that they are. There's reasons for all these things, and I think that sometimes startups that haven't studied the history or had the chance to work inside of some of these organizations just have this assumption that it's stupidity or something, or this assumption that it's they're just Luddites. Very, very often it's not that. Very, very often there's a very real reason that specific server is on-prem at that very specific place, be it security, be it whatever it might be. So
You read my mind again.
it's this. We got to
Security,
be careful.
regulatory concerns.
Yep. We got to be careful about getting too far over our skis with a lot of this stuff. I mean, it is wildly exciting and it's going to change the world. But, watch Ex Machina and you see how it could go bad.
We need to put a link to that movie, in the in the description section. So, speaking of strategy, like what lessons can fintech entrepreneurs learn from Klarna with how they have pivoted from pandemic darling to long-term sustainability?
I really think that the biggest lesson from Klarna, the thing that impresses me the most about them is the business model innovation, right? It's the fact that they're serving multiple sides of a marketplace, sitting in the middle. They're facilitating connections in a way that no other company does, right? They're a payments company, but it's also a discoverability of that new pair of shoes. It's also, right, like it's a place where people spend time. Like wait, hold on, rewind. I'm opening a financial app to spend time doing something other than just a pure like I'm not transferring money. I'm not investing in anything necessarily. I'm just getting on there to check out maybe some shoes, check out, what's going on. But it's a payments app. And in the US especially, that like, in Asia, super apps, things along those lines, that's very much more a thing. But I think what Klarna's been able to do is to build that multi-sided marketplace and to build a brand that people want to be a part of. I think that's the other thing about a lot of what fintech has done is like the pride of a Klarna card. I think it says something about you, right? In the same way, actually, so this is a conversation we had with their CMO. And I was asking, like, do you think that Klarna is in some way a luxury brand? And his basic answer, he said no. But as we got in the weeds of it, like there's overlaps, right? Like there's pride in the idea that I have a Klarna card. Like back in the day, I mean, if you think about the Monzo card, having that orange Monzo card walking around
Orange
London,
card, bro.
that meant something, right? It was a conversation starter.
I traded my orange one for the white one.
See, there you go. Even that is like, that's what I'm saying is like all of these different.
I don't have it around. I don't like that orange one. It annoys me. Like every Tom, Dick, and Harry just has that orange one.
But to our earlier question about growth hacking, that was a piece of growth hacking for them, right? So to the Klarna point, I think building a brand that people trust, and building a friendly brand inside of financial services is something that's not easy to do, that they've been able to pull off. And I think that the branding experiment and the branding execution they've done there is more exciting than, buy now, pay later itself. Like what they've done is so much bigger than what it started with. And to me, that is the most exciting piece. I don't know if that's even really a good answer, but to me, that's what's so unique about it that gets me excited about it.
And, branding actually does, would I say, I don't want to say manipulate, or like influencing people. I think branding is very, very big.
Yeah, like I have I fly a lot, so I have a Delta Amex Reserve card, right? If I didn't fly so much, I definitely wouldn't have that. It has nothing to do with my actual standing in society, but it's metal, it's heavy. When I drop it on the table, I feel a certain way, right? Like it's all about like, there's only so many touch points in finance where you can separate yourself. And it's those little moments that I think companies like Klarna have really been able to figure out.
Interesting stuff. Those metal cards, just like the Monzo white card as well, it's metal. And when I'm at the airport and, you swipe it and you get VIP access, discounted. You feel good about yourself.
Yeah,
Like,
you kind of like,
okay,
you grow an
yeah,
inch,
yeah,
you know,
like,
you like,
yeah,
yeah, excuse me, VIP coming through. Yeah, it's I mean, it's a card, you know, but it gives you this, it's emotional,
yeah.
right? It brings it
It's
back
got a
to the
lot of
emotion of it. Yep.
yeah, and I like what they're doing with this, partnerships. You see, it's not just about the fintech, but of course, the partnerships they're able to build. Sometimes they just come up with a new partner and tell you, oh, we partnered with this cinema. You can go grab, your cinema tickets, popcorns. I'm like, wow, bank.
If you think,
They've
yeah, I
built a
mean,
lot of things.
I don't know if they would want me saying this, and luckily I don't work there, so it doesn't matter. But I think a lot of what they've done is, if you squint a little bit, similar to a lot of what Amex did back with the Black Card, right? Not that it's at that same level of like only Jerry Seinfeld has one or whatever, but if you think about kind of you mentally associate yourself with this brand in a way that makes you feel good about yourself, right? And if you can achieve that in financial services, you've unlocked something absolutely gigantic.
Entrepreneurship is basically about unlocking markets, and these guys have been able to unlock multiple markets, and yeah, it's a really good thing for them. But you are at the heart of curating content for conversations at Money 2020. So what kind of leadership mindsets stand out to you in this space? Just before you answer that, I have a philosophy, and by the way, Morgan Anderson, one of the top tax debt resolution experts in America, describes me as a modern day business philosopher, and
Okay.
I have taken that title and run with it, right? So part of my philosophies is that when you're hiring, or when you're hiring to your team, when you are having partnerships in business, you need to consider three very important things:
Okay.
mindset, skill set, and tool set, in that order. The mindset, the skill set, and the tool set. Yeah, a lot
I
of
agree.
people, a lot of organizations disregard the mindset, and it costs you heavily. It has cost me heavily as an entrepreneur. Like,
Yeah.
let's call a spade, right? Because you go for the skill set, and you learn very quickly that it's not just about the skill set, because the skill set can be taught, the tool sets can be provided. AI is here, different softwares, but the mindset, it's difficult to teach. A success mindset, a growth mindset, especially if people are not willing to adopt it. So,
Yeah.
like, in terms of the mindset, what has like really impressed you in the space?
This isn't really, I mean, we have, 300, 350 speakers, some of the most impressive humans in the world. Like, we're going to have Jennifer Bailey, who runs Apple Pay, at the show, and I actually I get the privilege of getting to interview her. We have Max Levchin at the show. I mean, part of the PayPal mafia. Speaking of, buy now, pay later, just unbelievable people that we have coming. But the thing that comes to mind the most is another company that will be there and with some strength. They'll have a good number of folks there. Is Microsoft. And if you think
Wow,
about,
I love Microsoft.
yeah, well, but what a weird, take a step back. Think about what a weird sentence that is you just said. Would you have said that 5 years ago?
I I'm speaking to you using a Microsoft laptop. Let's start from there.
Have you always been like a Microsoft person?
Yes, I'll say so. Yeah, I'll
Okay.
say so.
Maybe you're
I've never owned a Mac in my life. No, like, I just feel
you're
like,
okay. So you and I are different in that way. I'm very like,
yeah,
I'm Apple since the beginning. But
yeah. But for
I
phones,
think
yeah, I use
there you
Mac.
go. Yeah. But
The laptops, nothing. I don't think. I'm sorry, Apple.
no,
Only if you sponsor my podcast. But I want
there you go.
Microsoft to
Yeah.
sponsor. I
There you
want
go.
Microsoft
There
to
you go.
sponsor my podcast, guys.
But if you look at kind of where Microsoft was, I mean, Satya Nadella, I'm getting CEOs mixed up. Satya Nadella is their CEO, right? Yeah. Um, when you think about what he's done since taking over, it's been cultural and it's been mindset related, right?
Mhm.
Because the amount of infighting inside of Microsoft of, well, we have this resource, we have this resource, we have this resource, and like we're not skipping levels, we're not talking amongst teams. Like disbanded all of that. Like he actually like he's incentivizing skip level meetings. He's incentivizing just going and talking to the person. Things that we would think of as, inside of a startup is very obvious. But if you're trying to go from VP to SVP at Microsoft in 2012, was not in your best interest. Your best interest was to do the thing that made you look good, right? And he's, I think, been able to, in a pretty small amount of time, shift this culture, and with AI and everything on top of it that they're building, into one team, one dream, for the most part, heading one direction. So if there's one company I had to pick that like really has done something unbelievable in terms of, size of company and, size of customer base and all that, like what Microsoft has been able to do in shifting their culture is unbelievable. And I think so much of that comes back to the simplicity of allowing humans to talk to humans and humans are we are beings of incentives, right? So if he shifts some incentives internally, that changes behavior, and those incentives that he has changed the behavior significantly. And as a result, Microsoft isn't this 10 years ago, you might have thought of it as, I'm trying to be as nice about this as I can. They have taken 1000x step forward in terms of their brand perception, in terms of their technology, in terms of everything. And they've done it in a pretty small amount of time. And I mean, it's not like, it's not like Steve Ballmer and Bill Gates were slouches. It was just a different time, right? And the CEOs in between, all very, very impressive people, but really understanding the incentive driving the broader company and being able to reorganize that to run one direction, like that's impressive.
And then how about the acquisitions that they've made? For example, they acquired LinkedIn, which
Yeah.
was very strategic.
Yeah. I mean, their acquisition strategy, the fact that they've invested what they have in OpenAI at the point that they did, the fact that they're still also doing Copilot themselves. I mean, the list goes on as to the things that they're doing that makes so much sense. But to me, the biggest thing is like, I don't think a lot of those things would have been able to happen without the mindset and the culture shift.
Yeah, mindset, skill set, tool set, very, very pertinent, very important. And of course, speaking about innovators, the younger generation of innovators, so especially the ones that are getting into fintech, right? You are the pro, they are the Joes. All right. So
I don't know about that, but here we go.
so what do you or what would your advice be to them, right, in terms of helping them not feeling overwhelmed by regulations or technology barriers first when it comes to finance?
For
Get
fintech
ready for
entrepreneurs
regulation.
specifically?
Yeah.
I apologize in advance for this advice, folks, but my advice is go work in traditional financial services.
Mm.
It's that sense. Like go work at a regulator that's one thing I wish I would have done. Like I wish that I at some point would have spent some time at the FDIC or the OCC or something like that. If I had not gone and spent time in banking, I would not know 90% of what I know, because just that time allowed me to learn even the right questions to ask going forward to allow me to know more. Right. So my advice would be go work somewhere long enough in a portion of the company that you're interested in, or that frustrates you. Maybe find the problem that you feel is fixable, or candidly find the dumbest thing you can and build that thing, as small as it might be. It might be as simple as, right now inside of this mortgage department, there's literally a person responsible for picking up a piece of paper or a stack of papers and carrying it up one flight of stairs to this. That should probably be a piece of software by now, unless it's legally required that that's a human. And in the US, and sometimes it is legally required that's a human. But I would say go work in the regulated industry, understand it, and then build the solution that you think actually makes sense whilst staying close to the regulators, right? That's the other thing that's changed a lot. Is I think in the early days of fintech, regulators, policymakers, those doors were open but scary, right? Founders didn't really want to kind of preempt anything. Like they wanted to stay quiet. And I think the opposite is true now, or well, the opposite should be true now. where, you're having that conversation. You're making sure that whatever you're building actually regulators are never going to tell you that what you're doing is right. That's not how they function. But they will give you, broad strokes as to things that you could do
Guidance.
differently and read between the lines on, and, things along those lines. But it's unfortunately the best advice I can give is go work inside of a incumbent, go work inside of a large financial industry company, insurance company, whatever it might be, and solve that problem. On the other side of the coin, go work for a DeFi company. Like, if you are a good learner and you can understand the specificities of tokenization and also understand the basics of deposit accounts and settlement, then you should probably be working at a stablecoin company or starting one, right? It kind of depends on who you are as a person and how much of a self learner you are. But I really don't think anything can replace the experience of being inside of an organization doing something that you see could be done better, and then going and doing it better.
100%. 100%. I do agree with you. There's no substitute for experience, right?
Yep.
Um, yeah, but a lot of people in this age and time try to create shortcuts. Good luck. Um,
Yeah.
good luck. You remind me of my experience in audit, and that's why I very, very much cherish my experience in audit, right? Audit puts you in a very unique position. I'd pretty much say auditors are accountants on steroids. They are the accountants, the accountants. So, because in audit, you are doing a regulatory uh, compliance work. And of course, you're also doing financial reporting work. You're reviewing the financial reporting of management, right? So you are just in between and you're doing auditing as well. So you run like three different hearts at least in one
Yeah.
person. So it's like a cheat code for you to get your business acumen, for you to get your technical competence, for you to build relationships as well, and of course for you to learn leadership, and of course that global acumen of working with cross-functional teams, because it is very important to be able to work with cross-functional teams,
Yep.
right? So it's difficult getting all of that in just one single experience, and that's why I totally agree with you with that point of view of working in the traditional financial industry, because that's the only way you can get it right. You need to get the fundamentals right, get the ABC before you get to XYZ.
Exactly. Yeah. And ask all the questions you can along the way. People want to help. People want, I I had a very lucky experience at MBKC where I got to work with the executive team for the most part because of just the way my job was structured. And I mean, I drove, luckily they're friends now, and like I didn't actually drive them crazy, but the number of just dumb questions that I would ask at the end of meetings, like we would have, 30-minute calls. They'd end up wrapping at 20, but I didn't let people out of that room. Like, I had 10 minutes of questions of what just happened because I didn't understand, 3 different acronyms that were named. So I forced them to stay in the room and define those acronyms for me. So next time I was on the phone without them, I could actually know what I was talking about, right? And people generally want to help. So
Yes,
ask
that's a
those
surprising
questions.
thing. Yeah, but a lot of people just assume. So you don't. There's something I love to say. You don't get because you don't ask. A closed
Yeah,
mouth is a closed destiny.
exactly. You got to ask, baby. You got to ask. The worst they can say is no.
And that's the worst. And come on, like I've been taking notes since how long?
The more no's, the better. The more no's means more yeses.
Yes, absolutely. The people who are willing to take more no's definitely get to get the most yeses actually. So, but in terms of misconceptions, like what are the common misconceptions about, the fintech industry that people have even till today?
I think that at this point, I think the biggest misconception is that fintech is so dramatically different than financial industries. The idea that, like, if you think about some of these fintech companies, unless you're working at a true startup, they're at a point now where they're being regulated similarly to some of the biggest banks. They're like, we I don't really know how to say it other than like, we made it, y'all. Like, we did it. Like, fintech is big enough now that
Hmm.
it is almost time for a new term. Like, fintech is financial services. So this idea that, like, I am attached to the word fintech because it's, something I've attached myself to through my whole career. But we've been doing this long enough now. We've gained the trust and we've grown up. We've matured. So I don't think that fintech is fintech anymore. I think fintech is financial services.
Yes, fintech is financial services, but I guess a lot of us are still suffering from the trauma of
Yeah.
that that wannabe perception of fintech had, what I say in the last decade. But it has come to stay. Of course, it's the boss is giving the traditional banks a run for their money. So it is what it is. And I think fintech just needs more respect to the name.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's getting there. I mean, if you look at, just, I think Plaid is a great, like, kind of the penultimate example of a fintech company that has grown up into a true, financial services infrastructure provider, right? Like, Zach and Will and team built something that might have seemed a little nuts at certain points and, had ups, had downs, like, almost got acquired. To their benefit, actually didn't, has seemed to have worked out better that way. But that's a financial services infrastructure company now, and they treat it that way. Like, there's not this idea of move fast and break things does not exist in fintech at all anymore, because it can't. We can't afford anything close to that anymore. I mean, the same is true a million X in the crypto world. Like, another FTX would set that back another 10 years, in terms of pricing, in terms of trust from regulators, everything. So I think now we have a new responsibility on our shoulders to carry
Yeah,
forward with responsibility, with regulation, with, compliant infrastructure that, is time to put on the adult pants, basically.
absolutely. With more success comes more responsibilities,
Yep.
basically. And of course, fintech is that term that is very close to your heart. But the truth is, it is not what it used to be in the last decade any longer. It is, what would I say, a proper industry right now. And of
Yeah.
course, it is, would I say, mm, that adult industry subset of financial services. It is proper financial services. It's not just that baby industry any longer. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Because one thing that's really beautiful about fintech is the innovation and of course the rate of rapid growth that we have experienced over time. It's I think people don't give fintech the credit that it deserves for that rapid growth. You rarely see industries come up and just grow and blow up in your face the way fintech has done globally. That is on a global scale. So I think they deserve more respect. But
Yeah.
speaking about these innovations, right? Like, what do you think? From a personal standpoint, is would I say the most exciting? On a global scale. And of course, for me, financial inclusion is very, very close to my heart. Maybe because of the bias of, my origin as a person, right? Coming from a country in an emerging market. So I would always, put the word out there. And of course, it's my responsibility. I think it's my responsibility. I took it up. I don't know who gave it to me. I always try to ensure that I use my platform to ensure development in the country that I came from. So big shout out to my country. By the way, I'm always having my flag here. So
Oh,
this
I
is a
love it.
flag of that.
I bet that comes out during the UFC a lot.
Yeah.
So I
So
guess to answer your question, I think the one thing that I haven't mentioned that maybe is like nearest, dearest, closest to my heart, and what I'm most hopeful and excited about of all of this, when you take all the technologies we're talking about, right? And you think about how all this data has been siloed in very extreme ways, that leads to money laundering. Money laundering leads to human trafficking, I think a lot of the time when people think about money laundering, they think about narcos, right? Which in and of itself, not great, but a lot worse things than drug trafficking are happening as a result of money laundering, right? Human trafficking.
Speaking
Like,
of human trafficking,
yes.
I've had I don't know if you know about the Mekong Club, right? So they're one of the world's top anti-human trafficking organizations. I've had their CEO on this podcast, and
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, this is the thing, right? Is if you think about the ability to break down those data silos, right? And the ability for these bank consortiums in the same way that they're working to move money together, if we're able to track and understand more of how those illicit funds move, if we're able to gather more of those illicit funds, take them out of the market, if we're able to find more of the bad guys, basically, the world becomes a much better place. Like when I got into fintech, the stat was that we catch less than 1% of money laundering across the world every year. That
Mhm.
stat has not changed.
And it's a
The tech,
massive industry.
massive,
Industry.
massive. And if you think about the technologies we're talking about, if applied correctly, and government in public and private entities are able to work together in good ways, like we could solve a lot more than 1% of money laundering, folks, and to me that is actually the thing that, I'm not gonna say it's the thing that gets me out of bed in the morning, because there's so many pieces to money 2020, but like if there was one thing in fintech that I would want to go build, like if I had to go start something tomorrow, it would be around that. It would be trying to find a way to decrease money laundering in the world, to increase the quality of the know your customer rules, and to basically just try and do away with a lot of that evil.
Mm, very, very important. But at least, we just need to, would I say, contribute the little that we can contribute into that fight against money laundering and, of course, human trafficking. On my end, I've had Matt Friedman. Yeah, Matt Friedman is the CEO of Mekong Club.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who knows about the fight against human trafficking would know that guy. He's based in Hong Kong. Uh, he's done a lot of work, I think, for the past 25 years or so on,
Yeah.
the fight. And of course, we have Tim Nelson coming to this podcast later in the year. Tim Nelson is the CEO of Justice for Hope. Yeah, that's another big, our charity that fights money, human trafficking.
Yeah.
I've had Paul Moore as well. Paul Moore is he's an entrepreneur. He's a real estate billionaire in the US, and he contributes really, really big to the fight against money. Why do I keep saying money laundering? Because you show
Human
me the money.
trafficking. Well,
Human
because
trafficking. Yeah.
you're probably saying it because money laundering it's not just about human trafficking, right? Like, I mean, I use that as something very visceral because we can all agree that it's absolutely terrible, right? But there's a show on National Geographic called Trafficked. It's run by a woman named Mariana Van Zeller. I've had the pleasure of interviewing her a couple times at Money 2020. And basically what she does is she goes into a new dark market every week. She'll go and literally follow from how fentanyl gets created, where like the initial, like the
Wow.
chemicals, all the way into the lab, all the way into the actual final consumer. She does the same with ghost guns. She does the same with there's human organs, right? I mean, there's so many things that money laundering is driving that we don't think about. So in terms of like humanizing it, one, go watch Trafficked on National Geographic because Marianne is the shit. But two, take a step back and think about the world of that dark money. It's not good. It's not good at all. And it's
Not
actually
good at all.
really, really scary. And if we were able to solve even 2%, the world would look a lot better. So
Yeah, because it's very little money fighting against a lot of money. So like how
it's systems.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
And I
like
think we finally have the
bringing a knife to a
technology.
gunfight.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. It really is. But I think now we got our guns. The question is, how do we put them together? How do we build them? And how do we deploy them correctly? And that's an exciting question. Exciting metaphor that I hope doesn't get mixed, but you know what I mean.
Mm. Precision beats power, timing beats speed.
Indeed.
I think it's just a matter of strategy. And of course, we're able to win that war against human trafficking, because it is very, very, very inhumane. It's unacceptable.
All of it is, man. I mean, it's, when you think about just fentanyl coming across the border from the top, from the bottom in the US, I mean, there's so many things that money laundering powers that are the evils of the world. And if we could make a real dent on that, then we're doing something really, really good for the world. So anyways, that's my public service announcement, is if you're thinking about going and starting something, think about money laundering, think about anti-money laundering specifically.
Oh, interesting stuff. I hope they get to hear you on that. Wow, we've actually been on this board for more than 2 hours. You
Have
said
we?
it. You said it. I did it. That we're gonna have a lot of fun today. So we will have our part three, because this is part two. Quick fire round. Are you ready to rumble?
I'm always ready to rumble, baby. Quick fire me. Let's go.
Okay, good. I love that. A friend of mine asked me, "Are you ready?" And I said, "I was born ready."
I don't know if I was born ready, but I'm ready right now.
Okay, let's go. So, the one fintech startup everyone should keep an eye on right now.
1 second.
That's a tough one. Now I see why you say you were not born ready.
No, I just want to make sure. So there's a lot of companies inside of fintech that have very, very similar names, and I want to make sure that I'm saying the right name, because there's 2 companies. Braille.xyz. It was
Wow.
this, just because my brain's tired, I couldn't think of it. But it's that, when I was talking earlier about the guy that started the company in Des Moines and is now doing the stablecoin stuff, I keep an eye out for Braille. Ben Mellon is one of the most impressive and good humans out there building in fintech. So I don't know if that was like lightning speed that I got you that answer, because I wanted to make sure I said the right thing. But
Okay.
Braille.xyz would definitely be my answer.
I say it's better to be right than to be fast.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the biggest leadership lesson you've learned in the past year?
Empower your team to an irrational level. Make your team believe that they can do more than maybe they even can. There's a really quick story with this. So I used to coach for American soccer, for everyone else football. I used to coach goalkeepers when I was in college, or when I was in university. I used to coach goalkeepers for my high school. And there was this really impressive kid that just played baseball. And at my old school, we never had good goalkeepers. Like, I ended up playing in college, but I had never touched a ball until my first year in high school. Just kind of ended up that way. And I always just told him that he was the best goalkeeper in the state of Kansas. Like, athletically, everything, like, just, he's competing against kids that have been playing since they were 3. Who cares? He's faster, he's stronger, he's going to go harder, he's going to yell louder, he's going to come at you harder, he's going to communicate more. Like, he is the one. And I would pull him to the side before every I'm getting a little emotional. I would pull him to the side before every game, and I'd be like, "You are the one. It's you. It's you.
Biggest stronger.
Ain't nobody else. It's you." So I think, like, second guessing your team, like, you got to validate, you got to make sure that people are doing the things they're doing. But when it comes to true leadership, I mean, I think it's empower your team and make them believe they can do more than maybe they can even do.
I think that's very
And
important.
by the way, he ended up playing for 2 years, was all state, got college offers, and became one of the best goalkeepers in Kansas. Actually, he got more accolades by the end of his time at the school than I did, and I was very proud of that.
Yeah, like, you definitely will be proud of that. Like, I remember being a teacher, being a lecturer, and I had some of my students like win a national prizes. I never won a national prize myself, and seeing my own students win prizes, and I've seen a number of my students go on to do like really great things. some of my students have gone to Oxford for their
Yeah.
masters and, gone to Harvard. And I'm like, wow, like, I think I'm proud of myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's keep let's keep making the impact. Um, okay, if you could host any three guests, living or dead, on Fintech Family Hour, who would they be? What?
Any guest or any three guests?
Any three?
Any three? Oh man. Charlie Munger, definitely. 100%.
Whoa.
Patrick Collison. I feel sexist that they're just all going to be men, but Jamie Dimon. I just feel like a
Um,
conversation between those three would be absolutely fascinating.
wow. Why Charlie Munger? Why not Warren Buffett? I know I had a
I
guest who spoke about
because
Charlie Munger recently.
so Warren Buffett is, I mean, obviously one of the most impressive and amazing investors in the history of the world. But Warren Buffett would not be Warren Buffett without Charlie Munger. Like that relationship, they weren't as close in later years, things like that. But if you've never heard Charlie Munger speak, go to YouTube, listen to Charlie Munger. Like he's done hours at Michigan where he just gets interviewed. There are a few brains in the world like his that are simultaneously his ability to simplify the complex and to do it in a fun way. I mean, the man's funny is another thing, and I think that something that we forget a lot is like to learn you need to be entertained.
Like,
And
yeah,
I mean, I think
entertainment.
exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, I wouldn't pick him because of the entertainment, but he's just one of the most prolific thinkers and one of the most prolific doers in the history of the world, I think. And he didn't optimize for wealth, right? Like Warren's many tens of thousands of X's more wealthy than him. I mean, I think Charlie died a billionaire, but maybe not. I mean, he's definitely in the hundreds of millions. The one thing he ever bought that was like really, really big for him was a boat. It was just a really big, dumb boat. I think it was like basically a yacht, but it would break down all the time. He didn't use it that much, but he wanted a boat. He's just a unique man that has created some really interesting mental models in terms of how to live life. And I think when you take a person like that together with who I believe to be the philosopher king of fintech, Patrick Collison, and I just find Jamie Dimon to be fascinating in general. Like those three, I mean, that would be maybe one of the few times I'd actually shut up. Like, I would just let them talk.
Interesting stuff. Jamie Dimon. I think, man, he's got some, would I say, very strong opinions on controversial issues, and he just makes him a figure for me to sit back and look and like,
Yeah.
okay,
I
what's
guess
this guy about?
maybe my replacement, like if I had like maybe Elon instead of Jamie,
Elon
maybe.
Musk. Yeah,
I don't know.
that
That's a
guy's,
tough one. That's
yeah.
definitely like it's a strong debate between those two. But I would not replace Elon Musk for Jamie or for Charlie Munger or for Patrick Collison.
Let's have you turned it to Mount Rushmore then.
Exactly. Basically. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's have the Mount Rushmore. So okay. So what's one book or podcast that completely changed your mindset?
Podcast that changed my mindset, man. It's been so many. I'll go with a book. So there's the Almanac of Naval Ravikant, and this happens to be written by one of my best friends. But Naval is kind of a legend of Silicon Valley, one of the founders of AngelList, and similarly a philosopher king of his time, a philosopher king of not just startups though, of health, wealth, and happiness, right? So he's about building the best life you can and not just work, 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 work. So the Almanac of Naval Ravikant, I think, would be the one that has had the biggest impact on my life. And it's the kind of book that you can pick up and just open to any page and there's value. You don't need the context of the previous, 20 pages or whatever it is. And I do on a regular basis, just open it, take a quote, and think about that quote for the day.
Hmm. That is Eric Jogginson.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Proud new father as well.
Oh, I definitely have to keep that read. And I see it's quite cheap. The book is quite
Yeah.
cheap.
Yeah, I think I have no idea what it costs, to be honest, but it's the Audible. He just redid the audio version with some excerpts with an interview with Naval that he did. I mean, it's just, Naval, I think, is probably the most prolific tweeter ever. I mean, hundreds of thousands of tweets. He's said so much publicly. And to write that book, Eric literally read every word the man has ever said, written, every piece. And he got it down into this succinct, like, I don't know how many pages it is, but it's pretty succinct. And it
I
is,
hope they have it on Blinkist.
there you go. Yeah. I would imagine they do.
Yeah,
It's,
they do.
yeah,
That's
it's
what I saw.
worth a read, and it's one of those books that you don't have the need to pick up and read from beginning to end, because I don't think I could read it from beginning to, I mean, it's just, you need time to digest. You need, like, it's one of those things where you can just pick it up, open to a specific page, and think on one sentence for 3 days. It's just that kind of book.
Love that. I don't know what you think about apps like Blinkist, but I love Blinkist. In the same time, it's difficult kind of look around, or you know how busy we can be, but like it just helps you to compress and to digest it. What I say.
I like them. For me, I'm a podcast addict, so most of my ears are taken up, unless I'm at the gym. It's pretty much podcast time. So I don't listen to as many books or read as many books as I used to, just because it feels like, especially right now in finance, like, if you read a book, you're probably like a year or two behind if you're talking about the actual industry. But in terms of like mental models about how to live life,
Yeah, yeah.
those last a while.
I love those. I love those. They're like, but I say
Right.
evergreen principles. I remember
Exactly.
the very first book my father ever gifted me was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Yep. I've read that one too. I couldn't get through more than like 3 pages, I don't think, because I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure I need to think and grow rich. Got it.
And the very first book, I bought 2 books, for myself, with my money. The very first 2 books I got were Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and The Art of Public Speaking.
Yeah. How to win friends and influence people, I feel like, is one that if Gen Z and Gen Alpha skip, could be a scary thing. Like, I think maybe it even needs to be like rewritten in a more modern fashion, because yes, I would agree on that one as well.
Yeah, very, very important book. Wow. And of course, the very last question for you is, the future of money is dash. What do you think? The future of
Being
money.
built right now, baby.
Okay, I love that. And of course, with that, it's love and respect to you. I always
My
say this
man.
on the podcast. The SI unit for measuring life is time. And when a person shares their time with you, they share their life with you.
It's
So
been a pleasure. It's truly been a pleasure, man. This has been fun. It's rare that I actually get to, like, explore and, conversate on
I'm
these things,
telling
because we're trying to talking points. So it's been a pleasure, man. And I really do want to do it again. And let's talk offline about some of the partnership stuff, because I think we could do some fun stuff together.
absolutely, whoa, man. Now, I'm even
tell you
forgetting what I wanted to say.
We got to go to a UFC. We got to find the right time. We got to find the right
Definitely.
country, and we need to go to a UFC together.
You're coming to London again, come on, like
Ali, any dude, I'm in.
because to UFC, tell Uncle Dana. By the way, I have manifested this, right? That I would have Dana White on this podcast. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
I like it.
I have manifested this. You know about the BKFC, right?
About the PKFC?
Yeah, the BKFC bare knuckle fighting championship.
Oh yeah.
David Feldman. I've had David Feldman on this podcast.
Dude, you have so many second degree connections to Dana. Yeah. I think we should do is just walk around Vegas and just try and find Dana at the right point with the right number of drinks in him, and I bet he'll say yes.
Oh, like, Uncle Dana, I've been looking for you.
We'll track him down. We'll get him.
Let us track him down. Wow, interesting stuff, right? Yeah, gratitude is good attitude, right? And of course, I am very, very grateful to you And I always say this to the audience: always go for something in your life, right? Conceive, believe, strive to thrive, and achieve. For me, it's a goodbye. And of course, Zach, do you want to leave a shout out to anybody? And of course, do you want to leave any last words before you say goodbye?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say Money 2020 USA happening in Vegas in October. Oh God, it's so many dates in my head. I want to say 26th through 29th. Go to us.money2020.com. Depending on what part of the world you're in, what you're interested in. We also have shows in Europe. Amsterdam is going to be our show in Amsterdam happens next year. We also just 2 years ago launched a show in Asia in Bangkok. So depending where you're at in the world, what you're trying to learn about, come to Money 2020. Reach out if you're interested and just want to have a chat. I'm on LinkedIn. Happy to, occasionally busy, especially close to show, but always happy to help. And mutual. Thank you for your time. This has been an absolute pleasure and really glad we actually got to meet, spend the time on it. And I'm excited to do this in person.
Absolutely. When you're in London, we're going to the studio. And first, I have to end this recording at some point.
All right, let's do it.